Welcome back to A Sex Offender Discovered in the Church. An assistant pastor tells his story, part 3, the final part of this series. Please tune in to get the complete details. I want to go back just real shortly because it was something that I read that, I'm kind of, it just makes me feel like a certain way because it's like, you brought this to someone's attention and you were basically shunned and forced to resign.
Yes, that is the part that is really, that's the part that really was like, wow. And the tone of the meeting, when it first started out, it was kind of one where I'm being the troublemaker or I'm being, I'm starting to stir up stuff. But, when it comes to something like this, I'll stir the pot all day and night because children deserve to be protected. Mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers and, caregivers and caretakers, they deserve for their loved ones to be protected at all times in the church. And so as a leader of the church and as assistant pastor, I took that seriously. I took it seriously, but at the tone and the climate of the meeting when it first started, it was just kind of one that was like, oh, here we go. This is something I have to deal with. And let me just try to get over this as soon as possible. And just the tone of the meeting, I knew it wasn't going to end well. And the arrogance of that person, the arrogance to just, and it was kind of like, he was just like smug the whole time, just kind of like, you know what, I know nothing's gonna happen. I know I'm gonna get away with it. And he did. Honestly, he did. So, hearing that and knowing that me having to resign from my position and again, take that sabbatical, and that was the last time that I went and I just couldn't go anymore. And it was just really sad and honestly really sick that I was the one that was really bullied and pushed out of my position, and that person to this day remains.
And you being an upstanding member and member of leadership as well, because we can't throw that away. I've never been an assistant pastor. I imagine that it takes a lot to get to that position, and so that says a lot about really what did this man have on the other guy. And I want to talk about how you detailed several times about being threatened with a firearm. And, I remember talking to you and you were saying that was at the time where, what was happening in that time frame in society, or do you remember in the country?
I do. And at that point in time, around that time, there was, and people, they probably remember this, there was the church shooting in Charleston, and in Charleston, South Carolina.
I remember that one.
Your district from my house. Okay, so there were 9 people, and a Caucasian young man went into a AME church and he killed 9 people. And so that was around this time it happened. And so given the climate in the country at that time, and as we know, there have been school shootings, unfortunately, there have been church shootings, there have been shootings after shootings after shootings, and that's something to take seriously. I mean, that's something really to take seriously. If someone says they're going to slap you, well, okay, a slap, but someone threatened to brandish and get a firearm in the climate that was going on at that point in time, that's serious. I mean, that's really serious. That makes you like, really, could I be next? Could I be next? Am I going to have to look over my shoulder the rest of my life, because, this person has an axe to grind and I've, upset them so bad because I blew the lid on their little secret, and it's like, wow, is this person going to come after me? What's going on? But, at that point in time, yeah, that young man killed guns in churches. That was a thing back in around that time. So of course, naturally, I was afraid, but obviously, the pastor, the deacons, and things like that, they weren't worried for whatever reason. But hey, I mean, that's something you can't take lightly.
Yeah, I mean, this was, first of all, even in reading the offense where he threatened the 16-year-old with the gun, the 16-year-old was fearful. And then, here you are an adult, of course, quite naturally, just seeing the climate of all these mass shootings and things of that nature. Who wouldn't be afraid of that? But this is what I want to say is that we too often sweep things like that under the rug. Even if there never was an offense and this person, any person threatens someone with a gun, mentions a gun, you take it seriously. I want to know, did you file a police report when you were threatened, or what did you think was necessary to do at that moment?
At that moment, I was going to file a police report. I did not at that particular time. I didn't file a police report. I did, however, like I said, I did go tell 3 different people. And these are people that can, one of them being the pastor, I'm not sure what he'd speak on, but there are 2 other people that know, and to this day, they could corroborate that I did go to them at this event and tell them what happened. I pulled both of them aside and told them what happened. And I even met with the pastor in his car after that happened to talk about the incident. But again, nothing happened. One thing that you brought up that was important, and this is something, I guess, a question that I have, even with that prior incident, number one, why wasn't it, I don't know if leadership caught it or flagged it, but it shouldn't have even gotten to this point. When that prior incident happened, why weren't questions asked? That's a red flag. That's a red flag. One of your people in leadership did this. I mean, did something like this. So this wasn't a red flag to people in leadership, and especially to the head pastor. Wait a minute, your person, and at the time, that person was still going to the church, was still in a leadership position, was still doing what they do when that incident occurred. Wow. So you mean to tell me that nothing, that prior incident, that one was swept under the rug too? And I guess considering the fact that there's a history of sweeping stuff under the rug, nothing happened as a result of that. No, I'm not aware of any reprimand. I'm not aware of any, take a high, go take a break. I'm not aware of any of that. It's just, hey, keep on coming back. We're going to keep on paying you hundreds, plural, of dollars every Sunday. And we know that you're, and as well as do other things for you on the side that people don't know about. But there were other things that were provide you with lodging when you go places with us, and do all kinds of other fringe benefits that this man was getting, even in spite of the past incident, and even in spite of this person, hey, me having to resign. And like you said, you can run my background. Okay, when I came up through the ranks, that was one of the requirements to get a background check. You can run my background from here until the day I was born, and you will see nothing. Okay, you may see some tickets, some moving violations, but that's a spirit too. But we'll touch on that. I'm sure y'all will touch on the Leadfoot spirit. But listen, you might see a couple of those, but you will not. I've never been to jail. And I'm not, this isn't to brag or boast, but these are some of the things that I think that people should expect of their leaders. I mean, I don't steal. I get up and go to work every morning. I don't have sticky fingers. There's nothing in the background, no convictions with money laundering, no embezzlement, no pedophilia, no, none of that. And so, I had to go through all that, I did, but this person obviously did not. But you're employed by the church and around children, and you have all of this stuff going on. Oh, but that's, swept under the rug. But anyways, let me be quiet.
I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to go out on a limb and just say that the reason why it was not an alert for anyone, maybe they were used to him, or people of like minds that said, wow, not a big deal. And I'm just guessing, because to me, if you I'm used to being around Black people, and you come and introduce me to yet another Black person, then, I'm not alerted. But if you go into certain parts of the country who've never seen Black people, then you can see the shock, or the interest in that type of person when they're introduced to something that's different. And so that's just, to me, the telling part. Tony, what do you think?
Well, there was kind of like back in the day, there was like a cliche they used to say down in Broadway, where they used to say, the show must go on. So I think they adapted the same nature. It's like, listen, church must go on. This guy plays the organ. We're not going to get into whether he's anointed or not, but he can play.
Right. Well, in this case, I tell you, there was no anointing. I'm telling you, in this case, there was no anointing. Okay, they say the anointing breaks the yoke. No yokes were broken, but there was no anointing in this situation. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, when Bianca tell you, I grew up in church, and don't get me wrong, the church that I went to, these guys were beasts on the instruments, but they was also anointed, and they really paid attention to that. Like, if you were anointed, it didn't matter if you can play every note perfectly. They worked with you because of the anointing. But to me, and this is a very huge pet peeve of mine because I am a musician, I see more and more these days, these people employing people just because of skill. You have no anointing, you don't have no relationship with God, but because you practice a lot, we're gonna put you on the organ, on the drums, on the bass, or you're gonna sing the praise team because we need to fill a spot. And what people don't realize, not only the person on the pulpit that's preaching on the mic is ministering, but also them people on the instruments are ministering. So when you hit a note, if you're anointed, God speaks through that note, even though it's not necessarily language. There was a music language. And what people don't understand is, if you're not living right and you're playing instruments in God's church, you are portraying something that is false, that is totally contrary to God. But people, huh?
Sorry, I was going to ask, are you a musician or a minister? Because see, these are some gems right here.
No, I'm a musician, but I'm passionate about it, and I see this every day. They always get these people who can play instruments, and it's like, what are you doing? Okay, this guy, he's really good. Okay, but his lifestyle, he doesn't have a relationship with God. And it's like, I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever been to a church and the organist hit a note, and you like, ooh, what was that?
Yes.
Ooh, what was that? Like, there's no language. You don't know. There was no word being said, but it was like that note spoke to you because that guy was anointed. And it's amazing to me that these churches always pick these people to get on their instruments, get on their mics, but they're not anointed. They just have skill.
That's deep.
I want to just encourage the viewers and just to take a break in that I asked him, did he let the authorities know when he was starting with the gun? I think we cannot go past this without encouraging any of you. If you feel like somebody's making any type of threat or of injury or bodily harm, you need to say something. This is too many. There are too many situations where, even that individual is capable of doing that today. Now, so it's too many situations that are left, just unaddressed, where someone is threatening another individual, or any of that. Like, you guys have to say something. I know we black people, we don't like to get the police involved and stuff, but I don't feel like a life should be threatened or harmed out of someone's ego, or because someone is feeling that you uncovered their secrets. So please, 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 I really would encourage you to report that, because I would hate for something to have happened to you, assistant pastor.
Yeah, and to echo what you said, please, if you see something, say something. In my particular situation, I personally did not feel someone lipping that. Now, I knew exactly what was said, but I played it in my mind. Okay, we get the authorities up here. What happened? Okay, in front of all these people, you're telling me that someone lipped something to you. I just didn't feel confident in that incident. But let me be clear. If you feel threatened, if you feel intimidated, especially with a weapon, please, 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 please say something to someone. While I didn't say it to the authorities, I did tell 3 different persons that were there. So while I may not have went to the police, I did tell other people that were there that were aware of the situation. So please, if you are in a situation where you're feeling threatened, where you're feeling intimidated, tell someone, be it the police, be it your mom, your dad, someone that just tell someone, please.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just amazed at how our stories are so different, but yet they're so the same. Because it's the same spirit. It's like I'm blown away, man. I really am.
This is crazy. And really, when I mean, we want to say that we're really appreciative that you trusted us to, reach out to us and get this story across, because I know that this will resonate with many viewers. I know that, just like Teddy said, this will be able to, people can relate, regardless if it's so different. It's just so alike. It's just business as usual in the church.
Yeah, and I thank you guys for being willing to listen, to welcoming me, and allowing me to be here to share this with you, to trust me to share this story with your viewers, your audience. And so, I'm really grateful. And I mean, just for the opportunity that, people could have said, laughed at me, oh, whatever, this isn't anything to whatever. But thank you all so much for just, having this dialogue and letting me talk about this, because it happens and it's there. And you all have a platform. I felt comfortable with you all. I've watched you all handle stuff professionally. And, I'm not afraid that, hey, you're going to, reveal something. And so thank you all so much. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you, and like I mentioned before, we really want, if you will, to you to come back and talk about, you know, people with prior offenses serving in the church, because it's not that we are out to get anyone or shun anyone from Christ, or, working on, because in the Bible there are many people who have many offenses. However, this type of thing should be brought to the light so that everyone can be safe, and be safe and even feel safe. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, we want to talk about what is, the possibility that someone who had an offense can reoffend, and also how should you go about positioning those people in leadership in the church. Teddy, is there anything else you want to cover?
Well, I like you said exactly where I was about to go. It's not about an individual. And I just feel the need to say this because, we do have other videos prior to this video. And I just want to make it clear to anybody, we might cover certain stories and there's no, vendetta against anybody. But what you need to understand is that these things do happen in the church, whether you're a big name or you're a small name. We might have covered bigger names in the past, but as you see, this happens all the time.
Yeah, and right here you hear an assistant pastor, not not that any of us are greater or lesser than anyone, but you have an assistant pastor who is testifying to the fact that, the church refused to oust this individual who not only had a prior offense but was still wreaking havoc, going around making threats, either under his breath or, mouthing it, whatever way that he was able to get across the fact that he was willing to do what he had to do to maintain his position. And that's just my position on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And whenever you all, I'll be more than happy to come back. Again, like you said, having, and I currently still serve in the church, and having been in those backdoor meetings, and having to, finances, you could probably have a whole series on that, talking about money and finances, talking about, some of the techniques and things that happen that go on in churches, big, small, it doesn't matter, black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter of race, it doesn't matter of size, but these things happen. They're, of course, you just try to do everything you can to mitigate any type of scandals and things going on. But I mean, you've got to, you just got to do your due diligence, especially when it comes to predators like this. I mean, this isn't something that you can just, in my opinion, turn the other cheek on. I think you had a map of the U.S. and then you had another one after that. But just looking at that map, I believe it was Oregon that had the number. There were several sex offenders. I think that was the number one in the list with the number of most offenders per capita. So that's something that people should be looking at when you buy a house, when you get to an apartment. We're looking oftentimes at money, at location, but you really need to look at sex offenders. They're out there, and I'm not trying to vilify them or to do anything like that. But again, this isn't a social club. The sex offender club, that's not a social group. This isn't a group that, this isn't a fraternity, an organization. This is a group of people that are sex offenders, and that has been determined by a court of law, by the judicial system. This isn't, you don't get on this list by someone just pointing at you and saying, oh, you're a sex offender. No, things had to happen. Due process had to happen. This is a list that, you've got to, you work towards to get on there in a negative way. So, again, these types of things happen. You have Oregon, and then you have several states that are tied. But again, and I think the next slide that you had, when you talked about sex offenders in the church and what role do they play, in my personal opinion, again, if I were king, I'm sorry, but that would be a disqualifying factor. The Lord can love you, and I'm sure he does. At the same time, as a shepherd of a flock, you have a responsibility to your flock. And if you bring a fox in the hen house, you open the door and you let a fox in the hen house, and you wonder why the hens are crippled and ravaged and dying, you open up the door. You literally let a fox in the hen house. And when you open the door to these types of things, I personally would have zero tolerance for that. If I were, over a church, any organization, I just don't have a tolerance for that, because I don't have the time or want to spend the effort monitoring, okay, what is going to happen? What's the recidivism rate of sex offenders? I don't want to go through all that. So, hey.
And I'm sorry to interject, but
yes, please.
For people to know the reality of the situation is that the statistics show about 90% of children who are victims of abuse know they're abusing. And if they know them, surely they know the people in the church. Because again, we're dropping them off for vacation Bible school. We're dropping them off for Sunday service, for Bible study. We're dropping them off for, a picnic or whatever that the church is hosting at the time. They know they're abusive.
Yeah, and that's true. There are people that have that have been victims of, be it molestation, sexual abuse, rape, things of that nature, and a lot of times they know their abuser. It's I've heard that oh, you have that creepy uncle, or such and such, and these things happen. This is not just because you slap the label Christian on it. That doesn't mean that everything's going to be great, everything's going to be perfect. Many times it's not. And this is, with this survey, you have out of more than 2,800 people, most of them active Christians, but okay, do they belong, in your opinion? Hey, yes, as attendees under supervision and subject to appropriate limitations. But again, in this statistic right here, almost 80% of the people said yes as attenders. So yeah, you can come in, and no one's saying to do that, but to elevate that person to a position of leadership, you got to think about it. Would you want a registered sex offender, leading Sunday school, leading vacation Bible school in a classroom all alone with kids? Do you want that? And again, I'm not the judge, the jury, or the executioner, but I do have to say that, while God forgives, and we know all of those things from a organizational standpoint, we have to protect our flock. And as pastors, as a parent, you protect your children. As a pastor, you protect your flock. As a you have responsibility to protect those who are under your care. And again, I don't think it's any different when it comes to the church.
Let me just read some of these numbers here. It says about 60% of children who are sexually abused are abused by people the family trusts. And I want to go down. This is Darkness to the Light. You guys can go to their site and further view, their statistics. But it says as many as 40% of children who are sexually abused are abused by older or more powerful children. But come down to the blue text here where it says 70% of child sexual offenders have between 1 and 9 victims. And guess what it says? While 20% have 10 to 40 victims.
Wow. Look at the statistics. Look at them. Go back up to the one. If we could go back up to the other one on the other page. Just okay, where it says 60% of children. That's, if we break that down, that's more than 1 out of every 2. That's more than 1 out of every 2. So out of every 2 people, about 60% of kids, they're sexually abused by people the family trust. And who do families trust? They trust pastors, they trust ministers, they trust clergy, they trust teachers. These are all people who people trust. 1 out of every 2. If you do that statistic a different way, 1 out of every 2.
Mm-hmm. So there's so many more facts here, and actually I will link this document for you guys to read further on. I don't want to highlight any type of different type of sexual orientation or any of that, but some information is there as well to aid to your knowledge on how abusers or sex offenders tend to pattern their activities. Again, we're so happy that you felt comfortable to share with us, and we're so hopeful that you just take a breath. I know that this is a lot for you to detail, so just take a little break and we'll come back whenever you feel comfortable to talk some more.
Sounds good.
Oh yeah, we definitely appreciate this. This was a big one right here.
Yeah, this is big, and so we don't take it lightly, and I just really appreciate you. And we right now are hopeful that just knowing, I'll let you know that you continue your ministry. That's the most important.
Yeah, that's the hard part, because when you go through stuff like that, sometimes it's like, and I even with my own situation, it's like, you don't want to blame God, because God is not the one who's doing the negativity. But when you're dealing with His house, because people say this is His house, and it's like, if I can't go to His house and feel safe, where do I go? So you feel very tempted to not even want to deal with the whole organization at all. But it's really hard to separate, God between, the organization or religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you guys so much. Again, like I said, you're doing a great thing. I've watched your videos for a while, and seeing you, it's entertaining, it's fun. You go serious, you make me laugh, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And I mean, again, I can't express the gratitude. Thank you for listening. Thank you for not just brushing me away like the pastor did. You could have said, hey, whatever, we're not going to talk to you, get out of here, kick rocks. No. But you all took the time to listen to allow me on your platform, and for that I'm really grateful. And you all are doing a great work. Continue doing what you all do. And again, hey, if I could talk for days. I mean, literally, I run my mouth. But thank you all so much for the opportunity. I'm grateful. Be blessed.
Thank you. And you guys, this is Unadulterated You. Feel free to comment down below what your reaction is to what we just unfolded. Feel free to subscribe to our Instagram, our YouTube. Send us an email at unadulteratedyou@gmail.com. Be sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know when we'll be back. Thanks again, sir, for coming through. Until next time.
Y'all be blessed.